Our next guest is Georgia. This Georgia is the lady that fronts Georgia and the Vintage Youth. Not to be confused with any of the other Georgias out there, because in my view, they are just pretenders. Georgia is a TALENTBANQ artist, and we have had the pleasure of producing music with Georgia and indeed releasing it recently. But before we get to that, let's get a little bit of background. Georgia, tell us, how did you get into music and what has the journey been like?
So the music thing, I kind of fell into music. It wasn't really my plan to get into it. I came out of school, I was working in a pub. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I went in to train for musical theatre. I thought I was going to go down that road, and then that didn't really work out. I dropped out of theatre school 2 weeks before the end of the course because I just couldn't be bothered for those last 2 weeks. And then I didn't know what I was going to be doing. I entered this national competition, like a singing contest, just for fun. I think there were 9,000 applicants in that, and I managed to come second place.
Wow.
And I thought, oh, okay, maybe, just maybe, I could do this. So then from that, I started attempting to write songs. I'd never written a song before, so I just worked on that, and then started trying to get myself on the gig scene, and then it all just kind of snowballed from there. It seemed to stick.
Well, I like the term snowball, and
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to share a little of your experience, because I'm sure that anybody listening to that, dropping out of your music school, your theatre music school, and sort of giving it a go on the gig scene. Well, I understand that last year you actually toured a 50-city UK tour that
Yes.
culminated in a performance at the Royal Albert Hall. Surely the dream of many, many independent artists.
Of course, that's like everybody's dream venue. I'd never even been there. I've never stepped foot in the place.
Well, for those of us that have never been on the backstage end of the Royal Albert Hall, what's it like, Georgia, arriving there in the day and coming out to do a sound check in that glorious space but with no audience? Is that intimidating?
Do you know what? It wasn't. I thought it was going to be the scariest experience of my life, but it wasn't at all. I think at that point we'd done like 52 shows, and I was just ready to play that venue. I've never felt more ready for anything. So I wasn't actually nervous at all. And I know that people always say, nerves are good for you, and like you're lying if you say you're not nervous. But I genuinely wasn't. I was just so excited and buzzing to get out there.
So your 52 shows were a rehearsal for the Royal Albert Hall?
Yeah, the entire tour was a rehearsal for that one night.
So then it comes to that moment where you're standing in the wings and you're given the signal that it's your time to come on stage. Now you're walking out and the Royal Albert Hall is full, sold out. What is that like?
Okay, well, I tell you, I maybe was a little bit nervous for like a second when they said to me, right, go. Then I was like, okay, but then as soon as you walk out, you're fine. I thought that, it's such a big venue and I was the support act, so I thought I was going to walk out to like mothball silence. But I did, like, everybody was screaming because we'd built up kind of a following of our own throughout the tour. There were certain fans that really warmed to us as well. There were a lot of people there that we recognised from the rest of the tour, so that was really lovely. The Royal Albert Hall, it's like backstage, it's like a maze. It's absolutely huge. You get lost backstage. I couldn't work out where I was half the time. But being on the stage, it's funny, when you're in the audience of the Royal Albert Hall, it looks huge. The venue looks absolutely massive. But when you're stood on the stage, it just feels a lot smaller and you can't see anything. You can see like the first few rows and then the rest is just this dark red haze.
Georgia, what a wonderful experience. You know, I don't quite know what the next steps are after the Royal Albert Hall. Maybe it's the O2 and maybe it's Madison Square Garden, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, well, now, let's get right up to date. Tell us a little bit about your EP and indeed its title track, Overthinker, which has literally just been released. Mm-hmm. The term overthinker, I think during the lockdown, that may resonate with a lot of people. Tell us about where it all came from for you.
I've always been, I mean, my mum and dad would probably say that I was a very intense child, and I think that's probably true. I've always been an overthinker since I was little. I overanalyze everything, and I think too deeply about everything. And yeah, I've just done that all my life, and it drives you nuts sometimes, but I've ended up writing some of the best songs from it.
Well, you can't have written it during the lockdown because you'd already recorded it. So you'd already fathomed this about yourself. You said you used to work in a bar. Was it during that time where you were wondering what comes next?
Yeah. Just working in a pub, thinking, seeing my friends around me start to buy houses and get married and have kids, and I'm just working part-time in a pub, not knowing where I'm going in my life. And it's thinking, when am I supposed to be having fun? Because everybody's saying to me, make the most of these years because they're the best you're going to get. And I'm like, really? Is this the best it gets? Because it don't feel that great at the minute.
Now, isn't that... Let's reflect on that just for a moment, because we've talked about the fact that you did a 50-city tour, you came out on stage at the Royal Albert Hall, you've produced music, you've released music. I'm sure that a lot of people listening might go, wow, these are the best years of your life. But
I mean, to be fair, that year was a pretty good one. 2019 was a pretty good year, but on the whole, it's like, you got no money, your love life's falling apart, and you're like, there's no stability at all, especially if you're in the music industry. You don't really have any kind of routine or stability. And
I love your line about people buying houses and getting married. I think that's not actually part of the script in the music business.
No,
you have to
not
be,
at all.
you have to...
It's kind of part of the generic script of life, meet somebody, get a steady job, settle down, get married, have kids, all that. And the song is kind of saying, but if I had those things, would I genuinely be happy? I'm not so sure I would.
And how's it been received, Georgia? Have you picked up good reviews? Is it getting listened to? What sort of feedback are you getting?
Yeah, really positive feedback, and it's lovely hearing feedback from people my age. I have a lot of people commenting on it saying, I'm in my 20s and I completely understand what you're talking about. This is exactly how I feel. And that's nice because it makes me feel like, it's not just me that's going mad, other people are feeling these things as well.
Well, what we're going to do, Georgia, and by the way, what a pleasure to have you on the show today. But we will now play Overthinker.
Lovely.
And we will invite listeners to come and find you. Georgia Vintage Youth, I believe, on all the socials. Georgia and the Vintage Youth on Spotify and other streaming services. And let's see what sort of feedback you might get from people in their 20s and other decades.
Nice one.
Thank you, Georgia.
Thank you very much.